Straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Fucking Zoom. Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. And you've been in here before, but we're starting from scratch again, so please tell me, who the fuck are you? What do you do?
Well, I'm fucking Ewan Cowie, and
you are
fucking film Skydiver.
You are fucking Ewan Cowie, man. Yeah, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Been busy, traveling around a bit. So I don't know. Let's start with the beginning then.
Sure.
You said to introduce myself, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
tell me who you are, and we'll talk about how you got started in the sport.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Ewan Cowie. I'm from Scotland, and I'm one of a few skydivers who made it out of Scotland and started doing it full time internationally. So I basically I'm a full time skydiving photographer.
All right.
Yeah, and I started out in a small drop zone in Scotland, like many people, just fun jumping, and then I started to film tandems to get extra jumps and a bit of money. And then I got into teams and that sort of thing and became an AFF instructor. And then around 8 years ago, I took the leap to be a full-time skydiver and moved to France at that point. And then I moved to Dubai at one point, back to France, and now I live in Imperia Brava in Spain. And that's it.
Sounds like it's been a rough fucking life.
Yeah, it's tough, mate. It's tough.
I feel bad, dude. I feel really bad. Like my heart goes out to you. Fuck you, man. All right. So first off, let's start with Scotland. When I think of Scotland, the first thing that does not come to mind is beautiful blue skies and skydiving weather.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of one of the main reasons I left. Not the only reason, but basically it's hard to be a full-time skydiver if you can't skydive, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
no, you're absolutely right. Scotland, the weather is terrible.
How did it even get started, knowing that it's obviously not a particularly easy sport, just weather-wise?
Well, in Scotland, we're pretty stubborn. You know, if someone says or something says you can't do something, then we'll go and do it anyway. You know, but no, I don't know if that's the only reason, but it's probably definitely up there because we would go to the drop zone even if the weather looked terrible for the weekend, but mainly just because we had such a great social scene and we'd have big parties anyway, and that's where all my friends were. So that's
nice.
what to be at the weekend, you know.
Now, what was the initial draw to skydiving, or was it just anything extreme, or was there something specifically about skydiving that got you?
Well, I've always been, if you ask my parents, probably a bit crazy.
Right.
My parents used to drag me off cliffs and anything you could climb from when I was like 2 years old upwards. So yeah, when they were here in Imperia last week, they were telling some of the stories again about when I was a kid. I felt a bit embarrassed for myself, you know. But I think so. I think it started from that, and then I'd always wanted to skydive, but I hadn't realized it was possible. You know, I thought it was something that you would do in the military or in America or something like that, you know.
Right.
I'd seen Pulp Fiction, for example. Not Pulp Fiction, sorry, Point Break, and
right.
And I thought, yeah, and Pulp Fiction, but no, I'd seen Point Break, and I thought, wow, that'd be incredible. But then it kind of left my mind because I didn't think it was possible.
Sure.
But then I saw a demonstration jump into a park in Edinburgh when I was at Freshers Week in university, so the first week of university, and I saw a little plane, and I saw some figures drop out of it, and then open their parachutes. And I was like, what the hell? And then he landed in the park, and it was a demo jump for the Edinburgh Uni Skydiving Club. And I was just like, man, take my money. You know, I couldn't believe it.
And this is as you were getting ready to start university in Edinburgh.
Yep, the first week of uni, and it's the week that normally you choose which sports clubs or computer clubs or whatever you're going to join. It's kind of like a soft start, you know, so everyone just parties and then joins some clubs, and then, you know, the next week after that is when the work starts.
Sure.
But for me, kind of, you know, the skydiving just took over my life. Even from before it even started, I was like, wow, I'm going to be skydiving in 2 weekends' time. This is awesome. And then I jumped. And then the Scottish weather stopped me jumping for 4 months.
Of course. Well, so now when you showed up in Edinburgh, what were you going to be when you grew up?
Well, I studied geology and geography.
Geology.
Geology.
All right,
Geology,
where were you going to go with that?
Well, I don't know, but I'd always liked the outdoors and didn't really like the idea of being stuck in an office. And I never knew what I wanted to do in my life, but I kind of knew what I didn't want to do. So I picked
Sure.
something that would get me outdoors, you know? So, and it was cool. It was a really good course, actually. We got to go on loads of field trips. And as a group at uni, we all would spend like 2 weeks away together in some random location. And it was cool. You got to be quite close with the guys you went to uni with. It was good
Nice.
fun. Each other
Nice.
well.
But you didn't. I mean, it was just kind of something to keep you out of the office, so to speak. But then, of course, you see some parachutes. Man, was it a light bulb moment, or was it just a I want to do that for fun, or it was a how the fuck do I become that guy?
It was, I don't know, kind of a mix of all of them. I don't really know if there was like any particular plan going through my head at that point. I doubt it, but I definitely wanted to do it, and I kind of also wanted to be the guy jumping into the meadows, which I was. Like 4 years later, I was one of the guys jumping into the park in Edinburgh, so that was really cool.
Not
That was
wild.
like a circle moment, you know. And but yeah, I didn't know that it was a possibility to do as a full-time job. All the guys working in Scotland at that point were weekend warriors, you know, like the drop zone was only open Saturday, Sunday, maybe a Friday here and there, but no one was doing it full time. So
Sure.
yeah, but you know, it was something that I was just hooked on straight away. Like, wow, the fact that you could just jump out of a plane, and even if it was a tiny little Cessna that took half an hour to get to 10,000 feet, didn't matter. And I didn't really know any different at that point.
Sure.
So yeah, it was just being able to jump out and the feeling of freedom was, man, unbelievable.
So, mom and dad send you off to Edinburgh to go to school, and you've got this slightly obscure but at least rock solid, no pun, actually pun intended, plan for your future, and then you start jumping out of fucking planes. So what did they think of that?
Well, yeah, they weren't good up. Apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently I phoned them up and I was like, "Oh, hey, guess what? I joined the sports club." They were like, "Oh, that's really cool. Which one?" I was like, "The skydiving club." And they were just like silent. Okay. They were like, "We're not going to give you any money for that." I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll figure it out, and then just figured everything out.
So
I
now,
mean,
how
my
did you?
parents, I was very lucky. My parents supported me with like helping with the rent, living costs and stuff. But when it came to skydiving, they were like, "No, we're not involved in this. That's up to you."
So now, no matter where you're at, skydiving is not a cheap idea, regardless. But especially in Europe with fuel costs, and I would imagine in places like Scotland where there's not a whole lot of money to be made in skydiving, it had to be quite expensive to get started. So, what did you do to make the money to jump?
Well, I was working in the bar at the drop zone, which is basically about drinking on the other side of the bar. But
Right.
you know, and I was packing parachutes at the beginning. You know, so there was some jumping in the 4 months that I didn't jump, but because I had one whole skydive, and there was a whole bunch of people that had zero skydives on the static line courses that had been after me, they got priority, quite rightly, you know. So I was packing their parachutes, hoping to get a shot to jump, but then the weather would get bad, or we'd run out of time, or whatever. So yeah, I made a bit of money that way, and then when I did actually get to jump, I had some money on account, and I could use that
So
to
now,
finish my A license.
how long did the process take to get through your A license?
Well, my first jump was October 2002, and I think my second jump was something like March 2003.
Jesus.
And then after that, it was pretty quick. I was doing 3, 4, 5 jumps a weekend, and I think within a month, I was, or maybe 6 weeks, I was A licensed. You know, so
Nice.
that
All
was
right,
pretty
so
good.
it went pretty
Yeah.
quick once the weather decided to cooperate a little bit. Scotland's got to be a beautiful place to jump, though, when the weather cooperates, no?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
It's got
when
to.
it's blue skies. I mean, Scotland in general. If you ever need a place to visit, just make sure you go in the summer. It's some mystical week between like May and August, but if you find it, it's perfect. Man. It's a beautiful country.
For that 1 week.
Exactly. Nah, yeah, it's not that bad, but yeah, when you're like a student and the wind limits are a bit lower or there's cloud, and yeah, it's complicated.
Sure,
But
sure.
we go there.
So, how long did the idea of geology hang on before you tossed it?
Yeah. Well, I never really worked in geology. I mean, like I finished uni and then I was working in skydiving at that point at weekends and stuff, doing Tana Video, AFF. And basically, I kind of did actually go to work in an office doing project management for renewable energy. I did 6 years actually, but it was not in the office all the time. I got to go out and about, visit sites and stuff. So it was kind of an interesting job, but it was a stressful job. And I was also working in skydiving at the weekends, so I would be doing 7 days a week for months on end. Sometimes it was 2 months with no days off, and that was like self-inflicted, But
Sure.
I just felt like I needed to skydive to keep my sanity. But in the end, it was actually working 7 days a week that kind of burned me out a bit.
Oh,
and that's kind of forced me at the end of the day to make the decision to choose one or the other. And obviously I chose skydiving.
Sure. Now, what kind of renewable energy were you working on?
Mostly wind turbines, but also biomass, biogas, and hydro. Like there's in Scotland, we have a lot of rain, a lot of wind.
Right.
Not that much sun, but it does happen. But yeah, so wind and hydro are pretty popular in Scotland. And
are you still pretty passionate about?
resources.
Are you still pretty passionate about renewable energy? I mean, is it something that you actively follow and encourage?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm all into renewable energy, limiting waste, if that's energy or food or packaging or anything, recycling. Yeah, everything to do with making our resources more renewable and last longer.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Because I learned a lot about it at uni, climate change and basically the state of our planet.
Sure.
And it really kind of brought home to me that we're 7, nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and it's only going to go up. And we're not exactly treating it particularly nicely. You know what I mean?
No, we're not.
So, yeah, I mean, as skydivers, that's one of the things actually that weighs on my mind, because I know that we're not in the most...
I was going to ask you, I mean, clearly we are not exactly in the most eco-friendly sport that you can get. I mean, it's horrifying to think of how many thousands of liters of jet fuel I burn every single year. I mean, damn, my carbon footprint alone is pretty nasty.
Well, no, I know what you mean, and it's something like it's definitely weighed on my mind. But it also, I kind of justify it to myself in that we're not the only sport that does this. In fact, most sports have kind of what you look at like pointless burning of fuels or something like that, just for pleasure, if pleasure is pointless.
Sure.
So basically everything we do that isn't necessary to live, if we use resources to do that, we're kind of all the same. We're all using these resources just for pleasure, whether it's to drive to go and hike up a mountain. If you drive 2 hours to hike up a mountain, that's got some kind of carbon footprint. If if you're flying planes or if you're racing cars, all this sort of stuff, it uses fuel, it uses resources. So yeah, I mean, it's not something that is limited to skydiving, shall we say, but I think we all need to try and maybe green ourselves up in other aspects of our life to make the impact of what we do less. And I try and do that in other ways,
Which is a big deal, right? I mean, obviously we're in a sport where in the foreseeable future, it's not going to change. We're not going to stop burning fuel to do what we love doing. So you're right. It's a damn good idea to try and find other ways that we can try and negate that massive footprint we have. That being said, in the big scheme of things, our sport's pretty fucking small.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. If there was, the number of skydivers as there are racing drivers or just people who go out on their bike at the weekend for a bit of a blast, then it would be something that would really be having an impact on the planet, I think. But for our little niche, it's not really doing anything. Right, but that being said, like Skydiving Puri Brava, where I live and work for some of the year, they signed up to be carbon neutral.
Nice.
Whether or not that's exactly, unit for unit carbon neutral or not, it's at least a start, So I haven't seen the figures myself, but at least it's better than doing nothing. So it's something that, you can do. It maybe costs a little bit of money, but it's something that can help at the beginning.
Sure.
And then there's maybe like you could use biofuels to fuel the plane. You could get an electric plane. You could, there's various ways to go down it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely coming. Well, and I mean, I think skydiving also attracts a lot of the type of individuals that are thinking along the same lines that you are in a renewable way and thinking about that footprint that they have. So I think if any sport as a whole has the opportunity to push for something like that, skydiving is it.
Yeah. And I think seeing world from above like we do, I think it gives you a bit of a perspective that maybe the average Joe standing on the ground doesn't see. You see the oceans, you see the land, the cities, how big an impact we have, the new construction, the pollution, things like that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know stuff like that. I don't know if everyone does, but I think on average we probably are a bit more aware of it.
I think so. I mean, we've all had those days where we go out to jump and it's particularly smoggy in and around the city we happen to be jumping near, and it's just nasty. And you can see it, and there's no getting your head around the fact that that's caused by us. So,
Yeah.
So onto lighter subjects, you get through your AFF. 4 years into it, you even get to jump into the field where they made the jump that inspired you in the first place, outside of Point Break, of course. When you finally leave Scotland, where do you go, and how did that happen?
Well, my drop zone actually shut down. I couldn't remember exactly when it was, but I spoke to one of my old instructors the other day, and I think it was in 2009. And it moved to a different place. But at that point, I kind of decided that I wanted to go to bigger drop zones. So I started to work down in drop zones in England. There's a lot bigger drop zones down there. And that was a bit of an eye-opener. They got bigger planes, more going on, more skill level and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of like the beginning of me exploring a bit more of the world of skydiving, but I was still working in my office job at that point. And then I think it was in 2013 or 14, I decided to take a sabbatical from work for 3 months and travel around a bit. So I went to Brazil for a month. I was best man at a friend's wedding. And then I came back for some competitions in the UK. And then I went again to Asia for a month. And while I was away, my girlfriend at the time had applied for a job in France. And she found out she'd got it. So I basically emailed my boss, still feel a little bit guilty about that, and said, sorry, mate, I'm not coming back.
So you're still on that sabbatical?
Yeah, I'm still on that sabbatical. Yeah.
I mean, well, how long had this been going on? I mean, it sounds like you'd been traveling for quite a while. So I'm guessing your boss had a good idea. You might not be heading back that way.
I mean, I'd actually asked before that to go down to 4 days a week. So I was only working 6 days a week, with my 2-day weekends, getting work. And I think he could see that I was kind of losing interest and stuff in that point.
Sure.
But I mean, I gave it 6 years and I think he got plenty out of me in that 6 years. So
sure. Now at this point, did the family kind of settle into the idea that you were heading down the path that you're on now? I mean, had they figured that out probably pretty quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd realized that I wasn't completely going down some suicide route, and or if I wasn't very good at it,
Right.
But and also I'd become British champion in VFS at that point and been in the British record, and things were starting to get a bit more like recognized in okay, maybe he's actually not that bad at this. And yeah, they always really supported my family. They might not have agreed at the beginning. Well, they didn't try and stop me, but they didn't help me to skydive. But that was good for me because it meant it'd all been myself, So,
Sure.
But then he realized, yeah, he's committed to this. Seems to be doing all right. And yeah, they were a bit worried, especially my mum. That's what mums do. They worry. When I was going to France with no real plan and no job and all this stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I think they're pretty proud now of what I'm doing and what I've done and stuff. So
sure.
Yeah,
well, so now you had a relatively short time to progress from basically just barely getting through AFF to a British champion in VFS and all this stuff. Where did all this skill come from? I mean, because that's quite an accomplishment for somebody that's been in the sport for a really long time, but that was a pretty short period for you.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it was that short. Like, started in say 2003 when I got my A license, and it was 10 years before I was British champion, 2013.
All right, just to put it in perspective, I've been in the sport 26 years, and I've won jack shit. So let's keep it in perspective. You went from barely getting through AFF because of bad weather to the British champion in 10 years. That's pretty fucking good, man.
Well, cheers. Okay, I'll take it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think I find skydiving quite easy in some ways because I've done a lot of other sports that I think help with spatial awareness and body awareness.
Mm,
Like gymnastics when I was a kid, karate, swimming. You know, anything where you're in different orientations, like
sure.
upside down, whatever. If your body gets used to being in those orientations and being able to function and think, then when you start skydiving and you're doing that, your body kind of already knows what to do. You
Sure.
know, rather than somebody who doesn't do any sports and all of a sudden they're upside down at 10,000 feet. I mean, it can be pretty disorienting. So I
Sure.
think like that helped, you know, and just to be kind of a general sporty type guy, I think. And then also climbing. I did a lot of climbing, and I think that helps you function through fear.
Sure. Big
You
time.
know, like, and in skydiving, there's definitely fear of, you know, death, I guess, but also fear of failure. If you're in competitions,
Sure.
records, stuff like that, you need to be able to function through the fear. And for me, that I think that really helped. You know, to be able to just calm the mind, focus on what you got to do, and just get it done. You
I
know?
found climbing to be a really good help when it came to that because when I was introduced to climbing, I'd been jumping for a couple of years, and although fear
Mm.
was not an overriding thing in skydiving, it was still constant, and which is a good thing in my opinion. But with the
Mm-hmm.
climbing, even if it's just a sport route, um, it's a sustained kind of fear, especially as you're trying to push those limits. Even if you're top roping, there's just a different level of holy shit. And then
Yeah.
if you get onto multi-pitch stuff and you realize that the pretty much the only easy way down is up, man, it just is a real shift in mentality. And that translates really well into skydiving when everything seems to slow down in a skydive, but it seems to stretch out on those climbs, right? So
Yeah.
it really does teach you how to deal with that. Geez, here I am.
Yeah.
I
No,
really,
I like it. I like
yeah,
both the sports for, I mean, skydiving's maybe a bit of a shorter, sharper,
sure,
bigger fear, maybe. And climbing's like more prolonged, like you said. But, you know, I love the idea of being somewhere where if you don't have the training or the knowledge, you're going to die, you know? But, you know, you like, oh, I could do this, you know,
sure.
and you do. And it's like, wow, that was really, if I'd panicked or fucked up, I'd be dead, but I'm not.
Sure. Well, and the kind of cool thing is, like you see all these documentaries of these guys that do these amazing alpine climbs or this or that, and they are in a situation where it's literally life and death, and they're using everything they possibly can to get out of it. Or these big wave surfers that are fucking flying down mountains that are chasing them, and they talk about having to overcome that fear to get through it, and that's kind of where you figure out what you're made of.
Yeah.
I never really envisioned skydiving being that to that degree, but certainly to a lesser degree. I don't think skydiving is the I have to use every ounce of my capability to survive this because we've seen a lot of stupid shit happen where skydivers shouldn't have lived.
Yeah.
and
That's true. No, dumb luck is a pretty good survival trait. Huh?
Absolutely. Anybody that says that luck doesn't play a part's out of their fucking minds. But when you got a Laird Hamilton that's riding an 80-foot face, if he fucks up, chances are he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
so I think it's the same thing, just to a slightly lesser degree, but it's a very cool feeling at the end of the night when you lay your head on the pillow going, fuck, I did that.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, I guess it depends on exactly what you're doing. You could maybe say that each swoop, you know, if you fuck
Sure.
it up, you could die. But I mean, I guess the whole point is you go into it in stages. You don't just, okay, I got 20 jumps. I'm going to strap on that Leia 25 and give it a shot. You
Right.
know, like it's yeah, you build it up in stages. But you know, at some point you got to push it a bit and do something that you've never done before or whatever.
Sure.
And also, if it's things like, you know, like the 200 way world record or something like that, you know, there's a lot of performance fear, but there's also a bit of risk. You know, if somebody fucks up and gets overfloats into 200 people, you know, it could be really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's why they have all the selections and stuff, so they kind of weed out people like that. But someone gets hypoxic or something, and
Sure.
you know, could be
Well,
really bad.
strange things happen, man, for sure. Now,
Yeah.
how did you find your way into basically being photography based and being a full-time camera guy? Not only how did you find that that was kind of your niche, but how did you get into the technical aspect of photography? Because you're not just jumping out and looking at shit. The stuff that you're doing is very technical.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that's one thing I like. I'm a bit geeky, I'm a bit of a techie guy, and I think most camera guys, if you scratch them, you'll see a bit of a geek underneath.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's something of a challenge in some ways, because there's so many things that you have to get exactly right with your gear and also with yourself in order to get a shot. Like if you think about camera helmet, like if you don't charge your cameras, if you have the wrong lens, if you put the wrong settings, if you don't plug in your blow switch, if something breaks, if there's a list of like 20 things that could go wrong. And if one of them goes wrong, you don't get your shot. And then there's the aspect of your flying. You have to get in the right place and you have to be looking in the right direction. And then, I find all that stuff really challenging and really interesting. But I guess to begin with, I just got into it because I love the idea of capturing what I do as a memory, Like when I would always watch my videos and my jumps like over and over again. When I was coming back from a drop zone on the train or whatever, and I love to be able to think of ways to make it better, to make what I was capturing better, if it was a tandem video or whatever. And I don't know if that was, because I never even held a camera before I started skydiving. I didn't really know anything about settings. It was all self-taught. I just strapped a camera on my head, took a few photos on a jump. Some of them turned out all right, some of them didn't. And I was like, why are these ones blurry? I don't get it. And then I figured out, I researched it a little bit and realized it was because it was on automatic and the light wasn't good at that moment and the shutter speed was too slow, so it was blurry, things like that. But I think I don't really know why, but it's something that calls to me.
Sure. Now, have you taken formal classes in regard to the photography side of things, or is this all self-taught? Is this all just, I need to know what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty much all self-taught, although I have looked at certain tutorials and things like that on YouTube or whatever if I needed to, and other sources, and I also learned a lot when I worked in Dubai with the Dubai film guys. They helped me out a lot. I would go and help them out on shoots at weekends and stuff to basically just get a bit more experience with the kind of wider world of photography and videography, which kind of helped me when I worked with Jetman. And it also helps me now with other aspects of photography and skydiving. Like the more you know about general photography, the more that you can apply it to skydiving photography.
Sure. And
you can get a shot that's maybe unique and different for skydiving, but it's a very common shot in like another aspect of photography, but nobody sees in skydiving because maybe nobody thinks to do it.
Sure. Well, I've seen camera flyers that experiment with long lenses to get that more of a perspective to it, and some of the shots are incredible. And on the ground, it would be nothing to have your subject somewhere in the middle and something really cool in the background. But in skydiving, so many shots are just one dimensional, and to see this incredible depth of field when we're in serious depth of field, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I love those shots. Yeah, that's one of the things I've been playing around with for a few years now. And it's a lot harder because the framing has to be perfect, and you're just using a ring sight. Sure. So that's one of the challenges for sure. And you have to go, okay, how much do I zoom in to risk it? I want to guarantee I get it in frame, but I want to get the best looking shot I can, which means I want to zoom in as much as possible. So it's always a bit of a kind of give and take on that, and how much you're working. And sometimes you fuck it up,
Sure.
You're all in shot, or it's because I like to get a jump where the whole thing's in shot the whole time, but sometimes it goes out of shot, or it's not beautifully framed or something like that, so
right. Yeah. Well, so are you the typical camera flyer that you'll sit and look at stuff and go, oh, that's good, but it's never perfect?
Yeah,
totally. You're that guy.
Big style, yeah. Nice. I'm always looking at my stuff going, shit, oh, damn.
Everybody else thinks it's the most amazing thing ever, and you're like, oh, I fucked that one.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, garbage in the bin, you know. No,
Nice.
maybe not quite that much, but yeah, I think that's a healthy thing in some ways because it's always going to push you to improve, you know.
Sure,
So.
sure. Now, what's your favorite, video or stills?
Oh, that's a toughie. I love a photo because you can put it on the wall. You know,
Sure.
that's, man, you can't really beat that. But these days, like videos, I guess I prefer photos, but for like social media and that things these days, videos are way more impactful. You know,
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, it's all about the 5 or 10 second video now that people can soak up, and you've got the opportunity to get some pretty amazing video. But I think I'm right there with you. There's nothing that kind of grabs you more than an amazing photograph.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, that's what the kind of, I'd say 60-40, you know, maybe something like that. 60 photos. Yeah.
So, how'd you get started competing with Airwax? I assume it would have been when you were living in France.
Well, actually, I never competed with Airwax. That was Baptiste Welsh. He was there.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. You took over all the amazing traveling with them because it was so much.
Yeah, exactly. He surprisingly wasn't that interested, or I mean, he's an amazing camera flyer, but he's not really a photographer as such. You know, he doesn't normally put a stills camera on his head, for example. He was only video, and you know, I just think he wasn't really interested in that, and that's totally fine. Like, he went into the tunnel big time, and now he's like mega star in the tunnel.
Sure.
But like, I met Greg and Carrie in a few times at different events around, what was it? Maybe 2018.
Okay.
And you know, we got on, and you know, they saw I was doing good stuff, and they liked my attitude and whatever. So at one point, I think it was at the world record, Greg asked me to take some pictures of the French group, and I did. I took the pictures. I gave them to him like quickly, because I thought, right, I'm never going to have a chance to edit these after this once we start jumping, so I'll do them now and get it done. And I think at that point he decided, hey, I want to work with this guy, and he asked me if I'd be interested to like go and follow them when they go to all the different places in the world. And I was like, okay, sounds all right.
So that list is getting pretty long as far as where you've been, and the jumps that you've gotten to do are, again, I'm gonna say it for the record, fuck you. So cool, the shit that you've been able to do. I've been lucky enough to see some of the pictures before you guys have put them out, and then of course I see them all as they come out in social media, and man, come on. Over the pyramids, over Namibia, over the islands in the Maldives, over all these spectacular places, which ones stand out to you the most?
Well, I mean, those ones you mentioned are definitely, up there for sure. Other ones, like we were in the Seychelles a couple of weeks ago. That was fucking awesome.
Of course you were.
We jumped onto Rio, the Copacabana beach at sunrise, just before sunrise, actually. That was amazing. We flew around the Cristo statue, like in the kind of blue hour, you know, just before sunrise, with all the city lights. And, man, it was amazing. We had like a private helicopter tour around that, and then jumped. What else? The Great Barrier Reef in Australia. We jumped onto like various locations, but the best was like a tiny little island 50 kilometers offshore, and the Great Barrier Reef. That was insane. What else? We've been to Kenya. Like, we jumped to the coastline there, which is like super tropical, beach landing, and then jungle as well. Like, wow, amazing. I'm probably forgetting a few, but yeah, you got the idea.
The images that you put out, especially over like Namibia, but of course the ones that everybody's seen are the pyramid jumps. I mean, you get to jump over some of the most amazing places in the world, but I have to ask, you're going out to do these very spectacular but very limited number of jumps you get to do. That's got to be a fucking fair amount of pressure on you to really come through. I mean, are you able to enjoy those jumps when they're happening, or is it I get to enjoy them as I look back because I didn't fuck it up?
It's a little bit like type 2 fun, you know? Fun after the fact. You're like, look at the photos on the ground. Okay, that was awesome. Yeah, I got it. Good. But yeah, it's definitely pressure. But that's kind of, I also love that side of it as well. You know, it's like keeps you sharp, and it really like makes you feel alive. You're like, okay, pressure, I'm gonna do this. But you definitely living life at that point for sure.
So now,
Um, yeah, there's some pressure.
how are all these different amazing places being arranged? I mean, it's pretty spectacular that you guys are able to do this. So who is pulling these strings to get this shit done?
Well, I mean, it depends a little bit. Sometimes it's organized by an external group of like locals, like the pyramids in Egypt. That was those guys. We go with the Jump Like a Pharaoh guys,
Hmm.
the original guys who organized the event, and they got all the permits for the military to jump the C-130 over the pyramids. Like, I can't imagine the amount of organization that went into that. But
Right.
yeah, that side of it is external. Like the guys from that country normally will organize it all and invite us to come. But then sometimes, like Greg, for example, he has an idea. You know, he's like, I want to jump this location. So, for example, Rio was like that, jumping Copacabana. He contacted all the different people to organize that. I'm sure he got some help from some locals, but that was him pushing it. Same with Chichen Itza. I forgot to mention we jumped Chichen Itza Pyramid the start of this year, January. And that was a challenging shot because the size of that pyramid compared to the pyramids in Giza is like 10% of the size, you know?
Sure.
So to even try and find that thing in the jungle from 10,000 feet is like, man, I was like, I had to shoot on 70 millimeter, which is pretty damn zoomed in to make it look big in the background compared to them. Because if you
Right.
film on a GoPro, it's going to be like 2 pixels in the
Right.
photo. But yeah, so at some point I'll show you the comparison of the 2 pictures from like the GoPro angle and the zoomed in shot. It's like
sure.
not even a thing. So yeah, we did just 2 jumps there, and one of the jumps I didn't even find the pyramid. I got down. I'm like, oh yeah, I think it was a pyramid, and it was a car park. You know, yeah. But one jump I did get it. So yeah, that was. It's not often I do a complete bust, but yeah, that was one of them.
I mean, that's where that high pressure comes in, because I mean, you're talking about that's a couple of times in a lifetime that people are going to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually hoping that what Greg organized, because it was hard and we couldn't jump right next to the pyramids. We had to find we ended up landing in a football pitch in the middle of the jungle with power lines on one end of it. You know, it was like a huge power line. But, you know, it was tricky, but we made it happen. And because of the pictures we took, I think that it's more likely to happen again, maybe in a safer location, because there's actually an airstrip like 1 kilometer away from the pyramid. But we weren't allowed to use it because there's like a safe no-fly zone around 2.5 kilometers around the pyramid. So
sure,
yeah, we couldn't go there. We're like looking down at this like perfect landing area, and then have to go and land in a shitty little football field in the middle of the jungle with no house. But yeah, Greg was the one who pushed that, and because of that, I think maybe it's going to happen more often. So.
Well, it's kind of funny, right? I mean, we all think of skydiving as having come so far and it's so advanced compared to what we know of the beginnings of skydiving, but the rest of the world is only just kind of waking up to what skydiving does. It hasn't been mainstream for very long, so there's a lot of people that just don't trust crazy people that jump out of planes.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's what's a bit frustrating is you still don't have the general public realizing, first of all, what we already do. You know, they think we just jump out of a plane and scream for 50 seconds and then pull the parachute.
Right.
But also they don't realize what we can do. You know, like what we could do for films, for adverts, for demo jumps, for anything like this, you know. And
sure.
Like I think of what I do as a way of kind of trying to bridge that gap between, you know, the skills we have and the people I know and I work with, and the people who would love to use those skills,
sure,
but don't know who to contact or even know what's possible, you know. So, like, I would love to be involved in like bringing the possibilities of skydiving more to the mainstream, and just see. I think it would explode if we could really do that. I think that skydiving has so much more to offer visually than what we deliver at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, one of the coolest things, and then one of the worst representations of it I saw was the last the Mission Impossible movie where Tom Cruise goes out and makes the C-130 jump himself. And I know he did that jump because I flew the fucking otter that the guy jumped out of. And he did the entire jump himself. He and one of the crew that I work with and did a fantastic job. That skydive is a legit skydive. So I was stoked when the movie was going to come out. I'm like, all right, this is going to be cool. I'm going to see it. It's going to be amazing. And it looked fake. They turned it into this shit blue screen looking garbage view over Paris that was clearly fake. And I was so bummed because it was such a spectacular jump. I'm like, I don't get it. You ruined a golden opportunity to look so real and really highlight the fact that Cruise was doing that shit himself. I'm not a huge Tom Cruise fan, but I'll give him props. He did a great job on that jump. And then they went and screwed it up for the movie and made it look fake.
Totally. No, that's one of the problems when you got a director who has this crazy idea maybe about what he wants it to look like. Yeah. And then he maybe doesn't listen or doesn't have anyone telling him, no, that's going to look like shit. I don't know if it looks like shit to everyone or just skydivers, but like, I'd love to see like a real, why'd you have to change skydiving to make it any more radical, whatever? You don't have to. It's already badass. You know?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is you talked about the Point Break at the very beginning that you saw as a kid. The skydiving scenes in that movie are fucking great. It's ridiculous because they're screaming and chit-chatting and all that stuff in free fall, and it's like a 10-minute skydive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's legit. Patrick Swayze is doing the jump. You know, I mean, there's outside video over that lake that's fucking spectacular, and that was shot in like 1983. It's 2022, for fuck's sake. You know, I mean, what you are doing and what guys like you are doing is leaps and bounds above what they were able to do back then, so they should let it stand on its own, for sure.
Yeah, wow. I mean, like, not to take anything away from the guys who did the filming then, they pioneered it, and they are like...
Yes.
But even just the camera technology has moved on so much that you could get so much better quality out of it. And then techniques and stuff of skill levels have changed, you know, free flying and things. So, you know, if you make some kind of badass free fly scene, I mean, you could make it into a fight scene or whatever, but you know, you don't have to change the background. Just find somewhere beautiful to do it. You know, like make it a real shot. And I mean, you don't have to do any post-production or whatever. You just have this beautiful shot. Like, you know, you give the guys a chance to show them what they can do. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, we'll see. I don't think Hollywood's going to listen to you or me anytime soon. So when you're not traveling around the world and jumping over all these spectacular places, what are you doing full time for work as a skydiver?
Well, when I first moved to France and I was trying out as a full-time skydiver, I did quite a bit of tunnel coaching. I would go back to the UK. I had a kind of bunch of students there, and I would also do AFF in drop zones there and do camera flying. Kind of a mixed bag. It was like maybe, you know, I even mixed between those things. And then it got more and more camera flying, more events, filming like records or boogies, that sort of thing. And I also, at the moment, I work doing like 3 months, July, August, September, doing tandem video in Imperia. So now I'm not doing much AFF at all. I'm not really doing much tunnel coaching, though I do a little bit with Airwax. And it's about, I'd say, 90% video work. You know, sure. That's what I do right now. It's kind of taken over, and I love it, to be honest.
Sure. You know, that's one of the things that I always thought was so funny about the sport and so cool about the sport is the guy that just won the world championship in this or that or the other thing is now Joe Blow's camera guy for his first ever tandem video. And that guy is never going to have a clue what's gone into how that guy was able to do all these amazing things and make him look cool in that video. And I love that because there is a fair amount of anonymity in skydiving. Like the general public is never going to know who the fuck you or me are, ever. And why would they?
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's like, unless you're, I mean, look at even Formula One racing drivers. Yeah, people know them, but Formula 2, who the hell's this guy? And they get so much more coverage than skydiving, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I work with like so many legends here in Imperia. You know, you got Pete Allen, you got Bruno Brocken, Gustavo Cabana, Man, the list goes on. Like, Raf Kudry, world champion, the Fly Warriors, Babylon. It's like, man, insane. And these guys come and do a tandem with Raf, and they got like Bruno filming them, and they got no idea. It's great. Yeah,
It is.
look,
Well, and one of the cool things another of the cool things I thought is people have no idea, maybe they've never heard your name and they never will hear your name, but they've seen your images or they've seen your video, or they'll tell you about the cool YouTube video they saw, not knowing it was you that shot it. I mean, that's pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've ever had that exactly. Somebody saying, "Oh, wow, check this video." Maybe once or twice. I don't know. I can't remember it. Probably happened. But that would be a cool thing, yeah. And yeah, I guess I get a lot of people who go, "Oh, you're Ewan Cowie." I'm like, "You thought I'd be taller, right?"
They know the name from the etchings on all the photographs, but they don't know. Yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. They have no idea what I look like, obviously, because I'm the one taking the pictures.
Sure.
But that's cool. I kind of like it as well in some ways. Because I mean, skydiving's a small world, but you do have the celebrities in skydiving.
Sure.
But I guess I'm not one of them, because even if people like really like my stuff, they almost certainly don't know what I look like if they never met me. So.
Well, I still think people have a tough time having the whole hero factor aiming towards the guy that's behind the camera because they're so used to, I'm looking at this is happening here, not realizing that the only reason you're seeing it is because of the guy that's flying the camera.
No, it's nice. Sometimes I see it like, in a video, people comment, "Oh, wow, props to the cameraman," I'm like, that's cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But, my job, it's like an editor on a film. If you do good editing, nobody thinks about it.
Sure.
It's only when you see bad editing, it's noticeable. You're like, "Oh, that looked a bit weird," or "That cut was weird," so I guess same with camera flying. If you do such a good job that people aren't even thinking that there's somebody filming it and they're just watching the amazing video, then that's awesome. That's the job.
Now, have you ever thought of as a full-time camera flyer? I know that there never has been really a camera flying course that people can take, but I always kind of wondered why, because it's such a specialized thing and there's so many things that are quite difficult to learn that if you don't have a mentor, becoming a good camera flyer is difficult. Do you think there'd ever be any call for actually having a school where you're teaching people how to camera fly?
Well, it's funny you should mention it because I just filmed a course with good job, with a company in the States called Crave.
Okay.
KRAV, and they are bringing out courses for like lots of different aspects of like skydiving, like canopy courses. They've done with Alter Ego. Inca did one for like body work for skydiving, how to get more, prepare your body for skydiving.
Sure.
And I'm doing one for camera flying. So basically,
kind of like a masterclass.
Yeah, exactly. And
Awesome.
It's all aspects like how to set up a camera helmet, how to film tandems, how to film belly jumps, how to film angle jumps, stuff like that. Common mistakes I've made, because I've made a lot of mistakes. And the way to get better is to learn from the mistakes you make. And so I basically explain situations I made a mistake and what I learned from it, and how that's affected what I do now, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot in there. It's not every single thing because it's impossible to really do every aspect down. Sometimes you need people to ask you questions to explain something. But as a beginning, all these courses are amazing, and for the cost of like 1 day coaching with a coach, you can get access to all these courses. So as a beginning, I can't imagine a better way for like a beginner skydiver to get a huge range of information from experts,
Sure.
And yeah, like I do know people that do some like one-on-one or group like courses either in person or over like Zoom for camera flying. And I've done some one-on-one coaching recently actually with an up-and-coming young flyer. He's a badass tunnel flyer, but he didn't actually have enough jumps to fly a camera in Imperia, which is a shame. But we talked a lot about the basics, and he's a good cameraman on the ground. So, he already knew so much about like cameras and that sort of thing. So it was really, how do we take his skills and his flying skills and his camera skills and combine them in a safe way to be able to get badass shots in the sky. because like one thing that I say a lot in this course I did was like, that you can't overemphasize the distraction factor of having a camera on your head. If you like really want to get a shot, or if you have pressure to deliver a shot, that's taking up some of your processing power in your brain, you could say. And if you don't have 100% of the processing power focused on your flying, then the risk of you making a mistake that either hurts yourself or someone else is higher. If you need like 70% of your processing power as a beginner camera flyer trying to think about what shot you're going to get, that leaves you 30% to focus on your flying. And if you're not really badass flyer doing something you know about, then the chances of having an accident is way higher.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, we've all seen it, right? The guy that's sitting in the door that's dramatically more worried about making sure his fucking GoPro is on than doing handles checks before he gets out the door. I mean, that's one of the drawbacks to everybody having a camera, right? I mean, not everybody should have a camera on their heads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having a camera on your head, if you don't really care about it, that's fine. If you just put it on and don't really think about what you're filming, that's no problem at all. But yeah, if people start thinking, I'm a camera flyer now, I'm going to have to get this shot, I have to do this and do that, there's a way to approach it. I think there should be way more staged, in terms of, film something you're really comfortable flying, with a group of guys, in a place, with a canopy, and all this sort of stuff. Don't add in too many new things. Sure. And Skydiver, that's a bad idea anyway. Like start slow. Think, okay, I'm going to put a camera on. I want to get some good shots, but I don't really care if I don't, as long as I have a good skydive. And then, get some of the initial fears or early mistakes or whatever out the way in a situation where it doesn't matter, and and then if you do have to do a jump where there's a pressure to get a shot, like a tandem video or, a record or whatever, or it's your first paid gig as a camera flyer or something, then at least you got some experience under your belt before you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I remember finally deciding that I was going to do all right as a camera flyer, probably a couple of years after I'd started jumping camera, when somebody came and shot outside video of me and showed me the video after the fact, and I was horrified at the body positions that I was in flying. I'm like, I look fucking ridiculous. And then I played my video, and it was perfectly framed and not shaking and exactly where I wanted to be. And I went, oh, I'm flat out not thinking about flying. I'm lined up for the shot. All right, it's okay. I'm good with that.
No, for sure. That's good. Like, that's where you need to be able to make the flying part so natural or so automatic that you have 100% or whatever of your processing power to think about the framing, and you can do that in a way that it takes a bit of experience to get to that point.
Sure. Oh, and a lot of mistakes. I mean, I can't even count how many times I bashed my cameras into the roof of the plane or into the bar in the Otter trying to climb out because I just was not quite there. So, but hey, survived it. So, moving forward, what are the next big events for you? Where's the next big trip, or is there one planned yet?
Well, I have a couple of events next week with the Fly Warriors in Imperia. So they have a workshop, which is like a kind of skills camp type thing. And then they have a training for the Spanish head down record. There hasn't been a head down record in Spain since I think 2010, and it was 11 people. So I think that's the right date, maybe not, but it's an 11 way. And anyway, they did the first training the other week and they got a 16 way built. So I think it's definitely going to get smashed. Nice. But this is the training, and then the actual records in June, I think, or July. And so I have those two events, and then I go to Klatovy for the world record tryouts in the Czech Republic.
Nice.
And then I go to Bali for a week.
I'm so fucking jealous of Bali.
Come along, man. Come along.
Oh, man. I used to go to Bali every summer, and for, I think, one summer, myself and another skydiver started talking to people about potentially being able to jump there and what it would take, and it was just this insurmountable mountain of shit that we would have to get over. So we walked away from it. And then I turn around and Omar Alhijalan is saying something about jumping in Bali. And I'm like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, he'll be there. Exactly. Yeah. Back together again after the Seychelles. It's been a long time.
Oh man. Just stop by Gilly T and say hello to everybody for me.
Gilly T.
Gili T, it's an island. I'll tell you about it off the podcast.
All right, okay. I'll try and remember that.
Yeah.
And anyway, then I go to Greece for a wedding, and then I'm in Imperia, and then it's the world record in Chicago.
Nice.
So,
speaking of, you were recently just dusting some sand off your knee, weren't you? You got engaged.
I didn't quite get the reference there. I thought you meant like a spanked in on the landing.
No.
Yes, no, I did get engaged. That's right. I went to Namibia and I proposed to my girlfriend, my fiancée, Jessica.
How cool is
yeah,
that?
that was a really awesome trip. I mean, it was super amazing to be able to take her to Namibia because I loved the place. And yeah, as a place to propose, it's like I made it hard for her to say no. You know. Nice.
So when's the big day, or do you know yet?
Nah, we don't know. It's going to be probably not this year. And also, I don't think it's going to be a huge white wedding job. You know, I think we want something a little bit more personal. You know, like what's the word? Intimate. I don't know. Like I'm not really into the whole big, huge church wedding where you spend $20,000 to make all your guests happy. Like,
yeah, no, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either.
But I want to do something special, but more personal. Yeah?
Sure. So, while people are listening, how do they find you on social media? How do they come out and jump with you if they're a budding photographer and they want advice? How do they do that? If they want to get training from you, can they hire you? How do they find Ewan Cowie?
Well, the best way to contact me is either through my Facebook page, Ewan Cowie Photography, or my Instagram account, which is the same, Ewan Cowie Photography. I tend to use those two the most, like to as a portfolio and also to contact people or to respond to people who contact me. If you want to hire me for something, then just send me a message on one of those things, if it's for an event or if it's for coaching. But, you know, try and do it early because my calendar has a habit of getting pretty full. But yeah, I'd love to work on new things with new people. And yeah, if I can do it, I will.
Awesome.
And also, if you're a budding camera flyer, you can check out my camera course that's coming out on Crave, Krav. I think the website is Crave to Fly. But if you need it, you can contact me and I'll send you a link to it.
That's very cool. Man, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of the insanely cool and busy schedule you've got going on to sit and talk shit with me for a while, man. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure.
And there you have it. Another episode of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you as always by, and say it with me, fuck yeah, NZ Aerosports. Head to nzaerosports.com. By Pussfoot. That's right. Head to pussfoot.com, the extreme sports collective, and check out everything they've got to offer. By summitparachutesystems.com. Jarrett Martin and the family cranking out amazing pilot rigs as well as incredible rigging courses. And now joining the Lunatic team, it's the one and only Tony Suits. You know him, you love him. Head to tonysuit.com. Check out all the amazing standards as well as the new incredible signature line they've got going on. And as for us, the Lunatic Fringe is now on YouTube. That's right, you're going to have the chance to put faces to the audio by heading to youtube.com and looking up the Lunatic Fringe podcast. It's easy. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out all the amazing videos from the previous guests that we've had, as well as new and upcoming interviews on video. As always, I am the fucking pilot. Head to thefuckingpilot.net or theprincesspilot.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time around.